On today's episode, I have the good fortune of talking to Dekel Skoop. He is the co-founder and COO of accessiBe, the world's largest accessibility website enabler. They have over 100,000 websites active live globally. And we talk about a bunch of very interesting topics, from operational infrastructure and planning to a lot about his career and how he pivoted from being in the bar scene and the experiences that he's gained to lead him to having a real global impact in making the world a more accessible place for those who are visually impaired. I hope you enjoy. Hi, and welcome to Successful Scales, the show where I interview now successful professionals about their journey and try and garner insights onto any tips that can be applied to your business at home. Whether it's financial freedom or the exit of your company, wherever your journey may take you, the idea here is to simply learn from those who have done it before. I hope you enjoy and you get some value out of this. Buckle up and enjoy the episode. Dekel, thank you so much for jumping on another episode of Successful Scales. Really appreciate you taking the time. Before we get into it and talk about everything that relates to scaling your business and, you know, obviously hearing about some of the challenges and some of the insights that you can share, for anyone listening out who doesn't know you, I'd love just for you to talk a little bit about your experience so that everyone out there can understand why you're the man that I'm turning to give some great insights into how they can help grow their business.
Hi, Yoni. Thank you for inviting me. That's the first. I already think that my story is boring, but people like to hear it. So, I will be more than happy to share my experience and my adventures along the past few years. What is the first thing you'd like to ask? You'd like to hear about?
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, because people don't know you specifically, and I've heard your story, and I think that you might find it boring. I find it super interesting. And I think there's a lot of things people can learn about how you approached kind of product market fit and how you really sort of understood and unlocked something that existed in a specific market and kind of where you took it. I'd love maybe for you to just share a little bit about your experience, even the stuff that's not relevant to exactly what you're doing today. I know you've had a pretty interesting and kind of, I'd say like complex and cross experiential kind of growth into where you sit today and the company that accessiBe is. So take us on a journey, mate.
I'll take it from the get-go. Well, to be honest, before I even started doing business, I always knew I want to do something big. I want to do something that matters. I want to do something that will people know and maybe will change the world. So that was in the back of my head since I'm younger, before I even went to college. And then after the army and before I was even starting my college, I decided to start with opening a bar with a few friends of mine. And that was a great adventure. We opened our first bar when I was 21, I think. It was 10 years ago, approximately. And after that, we opened another 3 bars. That was an amazing experience for approximately 6 years, I think. The journey took us, even 7. We learned a lot from treating clients, ordering, logistics, branding, marketing, everything from everything. It's you on your own. You're in charge of your own business. You have to do everything. You live during the day. You need to work. During the night, you need to work. It never stops. And that actually taught me and brought me into the mentality that it's on top of my back. I need to take care of myself and my businesses, and I can actually make a change in what I do. And also, especially with you, if you have amazing partners with you, which is one of the most important things to have. Okay. But I would like to take the story to the agility part. Okay. So,
well, before you do, and I think before you, without even kind of realizing it, because I guess like when you're telling your story to people and maybe you find it boring, for me, there's a lot of things that I pick up on that experience that I find super valuable. Like the fact that you started your first bit, well, before you even talked about the first business that you started and then expanding into all the other bars and handling every aspect and going on that learning and that journey and putting in the work, you talked about changing the world and you talked about you wanting to do something big. And so you know, at the core of, if I'm breaking down everything I'm understanding as to your journey in its early stages, mindset was a big part of it, and the belief that you can actually have impact and change the world. So stepping into it, having hands-on experience in a tough industry, the bar industry and nightclub scene, that's tough. A lot of businesses don't survive. So even just the fact that you were able to not just start one, but did you say another 4 after that, or 3?
Yeah, after 3 after that, yeah.
3 after that. So that's 4. That's 4 that you've been able to start, and I think that in itself is a big congratulations, because most people don't get past even getting that first business off the ground, let alone, you know, expanding into 4. And then, you know, before you start going into agility, which I'm super excited to hear about, you also talked about having great partners. And I think that that's also something that I feel it's very close to me. You know, I tried to go down the solopreneur route, and it wasn't something that really stimulated me. And having the right partners and having people that really push you to support you where you're weak and empower you even where you're strong has these exponential ripple effects on your ability to have impact in business. So yeah, just wanted to say that I'm sure you've said it so many times, but there's a lot to take from that.
One of the most important stuff I've learned is that you need people who complete you. You can bring what you bring to the table. You can't be you can't know everything. You can't do everything on your own. You need to have other people who actually complete the part you don't have. And that's what I learned doing the bars already. Like, I know to do X, my partner know to do Y, the other partner know to do Z. Together we complete a whole. Okay, if it was only one of us, we were missing stuff. And you need someone to, in Hebrew we like to say, to stuff your head into the pile of shit together, and you need people who complete you, to do it with you.
How do you say that in Hebrew?
לדחוף את הידיים לתוך החרא, כמו שאומרים.
It definitely
you roll your sleeves and you stuff your head into it, and you know, it's a hustle.
Yeah, there's some just great translations that don't have the same impact cross language, but yeah, that's a great one. No, it's good. It's good. No, it's good. I'm saying it sounded even better in Hebrew. So anyway,
yeah, exactly.
So I agree.
You need people to complete you. That's one of the most important stuff, and I think from the get-go, it's important to do it, no matter what business you open. And that's what I learned there. And during the time we opened, I think the 4th bar, something started bugging me. Not the 3rd bar, even before the 4th, the 3rd. Something started bugging me, and I felt that I'm not fulfilling what that I want to do. I felt that I'm not doing something big enough. I'm not doing something important enough, that I don't have an impact of anything. It's nice to have bar. It's fun. It's a fun work, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to make the world a better place. I'm not going to bring my brain and my abilities into something big. I had like a glass ceiling when it comes to bar and restaurants and stuff like that. And I started looking for what else do I want to do? How do I want to expand myself and reach to, you know, higher challenges? And that was during my degree in communication. I actually finished my diploma studies for copywriting, and I liked it. So I went to study communications and marketing and branding, a degree in IDC here in Israel. And during the degree, I decided I want to open a marketing agency. I want to bring my creativity and my brand and help other businesses to succeed. And one of my partners at the bar and one of my friends from the school decided to join me to that new journey. And then we decided to open a marketing agency from the nightlife, the bars, you know, the physical businesses, into the marketing, branding, and publishing world. That was a very important pivot that we made. It was a great move. At the beginning, it was scary, and we didn't know how it's going to happen, but, you know, it was one of the best things we did. And then we decided to establish the agency. We called it YKey Digital. It was Y for your, and key, actually giving you the key for the digital world, YKey. And the name sounds cute, so it worked.
I like it. And if you got the domain, even better.
Yeah, we did.
That's nice.
We did. Yeah. And we decided to bring everything we learned about marketing our bars and restaurants into other people's businesses, and it was a great success at the beginning. We scaled nicely. We had dozens of clients, and we started with small, medium businesses. Slowly, slowly, we had bigger clients, pharmaceutical company, car companies, and it worked very nice. And then when you start giving services to people, you understand that there might not be a glass ceiling, or you feel there is no glass ceiling because every client you bring, you can bring more employees and make your agency bigger and bigger and give more and more services. But giving services, it's not scalable as I thought it would be. That's the first. Like I couldn't bring myself into hundreds and thousands and even millions of businesses. I could help 100 businesses top, and it was over my head already. And then we had another enlightenment. We decided we want to bring even higher scale to what we can bring and have. And then we decided we want to sell a product, a digital product. So we didn't know where it's going to come from. We thought of opening a marketing solution as a SaaS that you can actually implement data and the solution will build for you something. But then along the way, one of our friends who became one of our clients had a great idea. More than an idea, I already had a tool that makes business accessible. And he came to us and asked us to help him to promote it and starting selling it.
Before you jump into that, can you just, for anyone who's, I mean, we've had chats, so I know, but just explain what you mean by accessible.
Okay, so the Israeli government decided one day that, and it's a great decision, by the way, that from a certain point in time, every website, every business who owns a website in Israel will need to be accessible for people with disabilities, blind people, deaf people, epileptic people, people who suffer from motor impairments, cognitive impairments, and the list goes on, okay? And every website that will be built or every website that is already exists will need to be modified and open is doors and used for those type of people. Back then it was a big thing. Nobody knew how they're going to do it and what is the way. The only way was manual, means bringing a web developer and web accessibility expert to open your website and modify every line of code on the website. It was a very long and expensive process. I'm talking about thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it can take even 6 months sometimes, depending on the website complexity.
Yeah, you actually gave me a really good when we caught up a few months ago, whenever it was. You were talking about the fact that at that time, clients would come to you, and for you to look and actually build out their websites to make them accessible, it would have cost them more than the original investment into building the website itself, which is...
In some cases, you would have built the website for 10,000 shekels, for example, but then the accessibility part would cost also approximately 10,000 shekels. So, it was absurd that for a technological challenge, nobody managed to find a technological solution. And then my smart partner, before he became a partner, thought about a tool and a way to do it automatically, and he started working on it. It took him a year and a half to do it, and we joined along the way. And after a year and a half, we actually managed to finish and to develop a solution that can make website accessible, fully automated, without the need of human hand. And that allowed us to provide amazing prices and actually make the product affordable for every type of business, because every business needs to be accessible. That's not even a question, okay? And then it hit me. I knew that I found what I want to do. Finally, I have an opportunity to do something big, okay? Make an impact, change the world, and also make money out of doing it. Yeah, it's a capitalistic world. I also want to provide myself. So I said, okay, that's what we need to do. Then we shift all of our focus from the bars, from the restaurants, from the marketing agency, all the way to that little baby that we just developed. It used to call Nagishli back then, Israeli brand name. And we started selling the product here in Israel. We start with our clientele in the marketing agency and in the web developing house that my partner had. It worked amazingly. So we decided, okay, let's start selling into the entire market of Israel. Everybody needs to be accessible. There's a new law.
What was the legislation like? What was passed? What's the impact like? Just to give context.
So the first talking about that was around 2016. The law was about to be established back then, but the government decided to postpone it in a year to give everybody time to, get ready for it. So they pushed it to 2017, October. It also gave us time to work on the product more thoroughly and make it amazing as it is today. Okay. Um, so in October 2017, every business that made over 300,000 shekels a year have to be accessible for people with disabilities. And if not, it can get sued and get, up to 70,000 shekels for each claim. Okay, and it's problematic for small, medium businesses. It's a hit that can close
So
the business.
that's for anyone listening. That's about 90,000. Anyone who's making more than $90,000 a year could be fined up to about what $25,000 for every single
For every
instance.
claim. So if you
Yeah,
have 10 plaintiffs suing you for not being compliant,
yeah.
it's the end of your business.
It's the end of your business and then some.
Yeah, everybody had a problem. The government had a problem because there wasn't an efficient solution for everybody. Businesses had a problem because there wasn't a solution they can use. They didn't know anything about it as well. And people with disabilities who need the website to be accessible for them who couldn't use the internet back then. So we decided to bring a win-win-win solution. Everybody wins. People who need to use the internet can use it finally. Businesses who didn't know what to do can find a solution finally. And the government who trying to legislate something and make it work finally have a partner to help her push it. It was us. Okay. That's also one of our core values of the company. It's actually
I
being a
love
win-win solution.
I love that, firstly, but I also love how you said that your story wasn't that interesting and that you're sick of it. I think for anyone who is, an aspiring entrepreneur or anyone who's even in the space, I mean, just the insights of the journey of, understanding that you wanted to build something and have impact. You took the time to hone in your skills until you found kind of that calling. And then when the opportunity came and you brought on the right partners to take it further. And, I'm also a big believer that the sum is greater than the parts, and bringing the right people in is what's going to have the biggest impact to whatever it is you're trying to achieve. But you also...
To be honest, it was my partner credit that he brought us in. He had a great idea ever probably, and then he brought us in and we complete each other amazingly. And that's what made it work. Yeah.
But everyone has to play their part in making it possible. Like I can't have the level of delivery in terms of our solutions if it wasn't for my partners in the business and, my co-founder and my founding team and everyone that supports the growth of this business. Like every single person in the team is a critical link in making sure that every experience is top notch each and every time. And if things aren't right, then, we've got things to solve. So I'm a big believer in exactly what you're saying, is having the partners the right way. But I find it super fascinating that, you're in a position, right, where you have, a successful business in agency land. And I guess you identified the inability to have true scale. And that seems to be the nature of most service-based businesses, even the ones that I'm building today.
Every night I went to sleep, I was thinking, how can I scale myself? How can I scale? How can I scale? It was eating me alive. How can I go bigger? What are the challenges that I need to occur and encounter, in order to push to the next level, to grow bigger and bigger and climb, and then it came.
Well, I mean, that's exactly like this. Your story is really at the core of what it is to build a solution to something that is so needed, and spurs it's necessity is the mother of invention. And here you're put in a position where the government's making legislative changes that impact all businesses and all people, and anyone that lives and breathes anything that exists online, realistically, in the country of Israel at that time. We're talking 2016, and you've found a way to not only enable it, but enable it at scale. And so maybe, again, I'm probably jumping a little bit far ahead. You haven't even talked about accessiBe and where it sits today. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'll let you continue on your story before I give away some of the punchlines.
Okay, cool. So working in Israel was amazing. We grew dramatically the first year of the business. We acquired thousands of clients here. And then scale knocked on the door again, like, guys, it's time to scale to a bigger ground. Like, Israel is amazing, but the entire world needs to be accessible, not only Israel. What are we doing? What do we need to do? And then we started research what's going on around the world. And we discovered that also in the US, there was a change in the regulation that actually um, made business owners to be accessible just like in Israel. And then we decided that, okay, it's time to rebrand the company. Let's go global. Let's do it bigger. So we decided to rebrand the company from Nagishli, which is accessible for me in Hebrew, by the way, to accessiBe, which is actually bringing the being to those that need to be accessible. Okay. And then we established accessiBe and starting selling the product in the US market. That happened at the beginning of 2019. And that was crazy. It's still a crazy roller coaster. Well, we learned a lot. We learned a lot between the shifting from an Israeli market, which Israel is a very small country. Speaking about marketing and strategy, when you market in Israel, you probably speak almost the same to every type of business owners or every type of client. But when you go to the US, every vertical in the US business ecosystem is bigger than the entire Israeli market. So you can't work with the same strategy anymore. You need to think and find the way how to penetrate that market, how to penetrate every vertical on its own. So you need to actually segment every type of vertical and approach differently to every type of them. Like the automotive industry on its own, it's bigger than the entire Israeli market. The retail industry is bigger than the Israeli market, I think. The real estate industry is huge. So for every vertical, you need to find the right strategy, the right language, the right go-to market, and bring it into that market. So that was the shift that we had to do, drifting from Israel into a global market like the US. And it took us not too long. We were very lucky to have great advisors around us, and my partners are genius. So we did it right away on the get-go, and it drove our solution to become the leading brand of the market, the brand leader. And as of today, I think we are the biggest web accessibility provider in the world. I'm not speaking about the free plugin widget that there are outside that are not making website accessible according to the regulation. I'm speaking about the proper companies who do it.
Yeah. So just to kind of give people listening as well a little bit of insight of your growth and your scale, because I found it really impressive. And I could be getting this wrong, so correct me, but is it 75,000 companies globally now use your platform?
Over 100,000 already.
Over 100,000
websites using our solution. Yeah.
So you have over 100,000 websites using your solution, and your big push would have happened in 2019 when you moved to the US market, I assume.
A big push start in 2019 and scaled dramatically in 2020, and we keep the scale also today. Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about, and I've got to bring you back to agility, but before I do,
okay.
Talk to me a little bit about what that's felt like. Because I speak to a lot of different people right now, but you are very uniquely placed to have really gone through this exponential growth in a very short period of time over the last, it's very current memory for you. What's that like? Like, I know your team, you're at about 100 people. I could be making that up.
No, a bit less.
A bit
Almost
less?
70.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
70 people. Either way, I'm sure that a big part of that growth has probably happened in the last 18 months, right? To support. So, what's that felt like? What's that felt like from being an Israeli company, understanding that, we have to build a strategy, a positioning strategy, and a messaging and a tone, and how we actually create our value proposition per vertical, because it's bigger than the entire market we've been servicing. Maybe just tell us a little bit about what that's been like to manage.
Okay, so first, speaking about feelings, we knew from the get-go that we have in our hands a system, a tool, an approach, a belief that we are going to change the world for the better. We are going to make the internet accessible. The vision from day one was making the internet accessible by 2025. And we knew that we are the pioneers. We are actually the people who will be in charge in doing so. So that actually pushed us all the time. We didn't have fear in our eyes at all, because we knew we were doing something good. We knew that we can make the change. We can do it. So that gave us a lot of motivation and wind in our backs. But one of the most important thing when you're starting a business and you want to scale it, it's to build proper fundamentals. Even when you're still small, 3 employees in the company, the thinking should be what's going to happen when I will be 100 employees in the company. What's going to be if you have 100 clients, what's going to be when I have 1,000 clients, and then what's going to happen when I have 1 million clients. When you build the fundamentals, always invest more time and money and effort, even if you don't think it's necessary now, invest that time and effort, because when you're going to scale, then if you need to fix things you did back then, it's going to cost you a lot more money, a lot more time, and sometimes it can make you fail. So from the get-go, think of scale. What's going to happen not tomorrow, next year? What's going to happen next month, not today and yesterday? That's super important, to go with a feeling of tomorrow all the time, okay? And every project you open and every process you make and every protocol you write, make them in the thinking of the future as well, because getting to the future not ready can actually devastate the entire business, okay? But there's also a thin line between thinking too much in the future and thinking, there's a silver lining in between that you need to go through to find the right way of how can I think scale without, exaggerate, but still build the process in a way that I can grow on top of it. It's a tricky situation, because sometimes you think too hard of the future and then you don't invest in the presence, or sometimes you think too much on the present, you don't invest in the future. You need to find
the balance.
We call it in Hebrew derech hamelech, the king route.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So, and I think that is a fundamental building block. And you touched on a lot of areas, I think, that really kind of enable a business to scale.
One more thing, because sometimes when you think too far away, it's going to prevent you from doing things now. And when you're a startup, we like to call it when you're a pirate, you need to move fast, you need to be creative, and you can't have bureaucracy and stuff make you stuck. You need to be a lot faster than everybody else. So this is the game you need to play all the time. Being fast and agile, but build processes that will help you grow. So it's like a game between being a pirate than being the Navy. You work between those two type of approaches all the time. And it's a tricky game.
I think that's very sound advice, right? Because that's it. Like, if you're too much of a pirate, to use your terminology, then you're just going off and you're plundering and you're trying to figure everything out and you're looting and you're going on to the next initiative and the next initiative and the next initiative.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe you do it enough times and you strike gold, and that's great for you. But the reality is you haven't created anything that's replicable or enabling you to really become, what I would imagine. You either sell your business before, you sell the shit you've stolen before you become the Navy, or you want to become the Navy, right? So having
I
that.
think becoming the Navy is the goal. I think the combination between keeping the pirate spirit in you, but create processes and protocols that the Navy would have created. You know what I mean?
Yeah, become the Israeli army.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that.
Something like that.
Actually, wearing the Israeli army color, maybe,
Additional. Well, do you know? I don't know if you've seen the stats, but do you know in January alone there was $1.3 billion in VC funding into Israel just in January, which is the largest month. But last year, which doesn't make sense to me, because how could that be the largest month if last year they did 20 billion? So something doesn't make sense to me. I need to get my facts straight. But anyway, just bring it all back to Israel and the military colors. So I think you're really bringing in some hard hitting points here, is that you really need to document the processes and the elements that are happening and really think about, well, what does it look like if I have, two account, like also some of the more strategic thinkers that exist in the business. Like when you sit there and you say, how do I duplicate myself? The reality is, at the higher level,
I don't like to call it duplicate myself. How do I extend myself and even improve the reach? Because every person you bring into your company need to do what you want him to do better than you did it. That's the secret of success businesses. You don't want to bring people who duplicate what you do. You want to bring people who take what you did and do it better than you. You know what I mean? You
I
need
know.
to give them the strategy and the way, but they need to initiate better than you initiated it. That's the only way to grow and grow healthy wise. And I remember when we were, I think, 6 people in the company, we said, okay, guys, we're going to stop everything for a week. We're going to sit down and write down all of the protocols for all of the departments in the company that you have today and you want to have in the future. For a full week, for I think 20 hours a day, me and my partners sat and wrote protocols for every department and every process and every single thing in the company in the protocol, because we wanted to bring people who join the company and very fast understand how we work and what we do, and then they can go and do what they need to do on their own without us all the time. That was an extensive, I think it was a week that I remember myself at the end of that week, we felt like it was tironut in Israel after your first month in the army. Yeah, but
Well,
that was amazing.
I think, yeah, just hearing that and understanding where you guys sit today to having over 100,000 websites that are leveraging accessiBe technology. I mean, it doesn't surprise me because you've put in the work and you've really thought about the vision as to who do we want to be as a business. Like
This
you,
is how we built the product as well, by the way, knowing that it's going to scale. We need to build a product that will be very easy to scale it. And this is one of the cornerstones of our solution that is, scalable.
I mean, you really like, I've speak to a lot of people on the space. Obviously, it's the whole idea of the podcast is to speak to people who are scaling businesses, but it's one of those points that already keep coming back is documenting out the process and understanding so that people can come in and not just implement. We're not talking about like a VA, base level VA that can simply follow and do data entry. We're talking about real people having new, fresh ideas, approaching it and driving towards the culture and the direction of the business. You mentioned that you had your core values of your culture, and I cut you off earlier, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about that because I'm also a big believer. We've built our core values, and it's so that everyone can really get behind the vision and direction of where we're all going in this single space. But yeah, not to put you on the spot, but if there's anything around your core values that off the top of your head or that you can pull up that might add value to helping people on their journey, anything you could share there?
Yeah, of course. As I said, one of the most important core values of the company, it's the win-win approach. It's just a microcosmos of the product, okay? The product is a microcosmos of the entire idea because our solution, as I said before, solved problem for so many people around that ecosystem. It solved the problem for people who want to use the internet and can't do it before. It solves the problem for business owners who didn't know how to make their website accessible and what the heck does it mean to be accessible. And it solved the problem for governments that want to be accessible, want to make their web ecosystem accessible, alongside with agencies who want to make their client accessible, the website builders and stuff like that. So everybody wins and enjoys the solution we created, and that's the approach we want to have internally, and also externally to our suppliers, to our partners, our employees in the company know that it's a win-win for everybody all the time. We're not gonna argue and fight with someone. We don't like to feel that we win and he lose, or we don't want to lose and he wins. There's an amazing book, by the way, Never Split the Difference, that speaks about that, specifically about that. He kept saying about 3 different outcomes of negotiation. One is a win-lose. When you win, the other side lose. Long term, it's very bad because a losing side won't stay with you for a long time until you will find something better for him, and he will leave you at the end. When it's a lose-win, when you lose and the other side wins, you want to live in the middle, and it's not gonna, work for a long term. The only way to keep things long term and make everybody happy, it's a win-win or no deal, and that's one of the things we're trying to achieve all the time. Okay, as I said, with our people in the company, I don't like to say employee, I like to say family members. With the family members in our family, with our partners, with our suppliers, with our clients, customers, whoever it is. We like to provide that win-win approach all the time. Even if it says sometimes that we need to lose a bit just to make it a win-win situation, we're gonna do it because long term is what's important, not the short term.
Well, you're talking about the long-term value creation there, and it's not a transactional experience. And
Exactly.
you talked about a book that I'm also very fond of by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference.
Mhm.
And for anyone listening out there, I highly recommend the book too. It's Chris Voss was an ex CIA or FBI agent who dealt with
FBI agent. Yeah.
FBI agent who dealt for, I think, a 20-year
He
career
was the
in,
head of negotiation team of the FBI, I think. Yeah.
yeah, for 20 years. And he actually never had a college degree either. It's a really interesting book. It's a really interesting story, but he talks a lot about, you know, the art of negotiation. And to your point, I'm a big believer in it too. Like for us, the business was started on the baseline as a social mission to pay healthcare and social security, HMO, PhilHealth, 13th month, operate like a Filipino entity, servicing US and global partners. And the idea is, we don't need to be paying people such shitty money. We can pay them fair wages. They're going to be happier. We're going to find better professionals. And as a result, the clients are going to be happier and everyone wins. You know,
Exactly.
there's no need to sit there and, you know, just to kind of evolve that point further. I think that what you're talking about too is the mindset of abundance, that we can really, you know, having an abundant mindset means that you can really achieve more and do more versus scarcity, where money in my pocket is better than money in your pocket and someone has to lose in a deal. There's no scalability in a solution like that. And I think that you really, again, like just talking to you now and hearing about the thought process on where you got to where you got to, looking at how you're approaching and how you're looking to grow and scale, and your purpose-driven core value as to having win-win-win and making the world a more accessible place. You know, not only do I believe you will be even more successful, but I hope that you are, because what you're doing, you know, because what you're doing here is trying to make the world a more accessible, friendly, and a better place. So, you know, it becomes very easy to get behind businesses that are at its core so purpose driven. So yeah,
I agree with you.
loving it.
So that's the
Loving the
first.
opportunity to chat, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm much enjoying it. Then we have another four core values. One of them is excellency. I specifically don't say professionism because there's no such thing profession. If you try to do things perfectly, you're never going to do anything. So excellent is the way to do things. You're going to put all the effort, you need into something until it becomes excellent, but not perfect. It means researching, building projects right, thinking another hour or two on an idea before, initiating it to see that you are ready and you have everything in place. That's how we like to do things. We like to think thoroughly in every process and every step we take. Productivity, it's also a very important core value, especially for startups. We like to say that we complete 2 projects by the time you read this little note. That's how we like to do it. Yeah. So also productivity is super important when you're a startup. Every person in the company need to work like 2 people or even 5 sometimes. Determination, super important core value. You can't let anything stop you. When you're a small company, you're gonna encounter tons of obstacles, tons of challenges. Sometimes it feels like the world is against you, but you can't stop. If you believe in what you're doing and you know that you're here for a reason, you need to push yourself, or I'll say it that way. Start telling yourself that you're here for a reason, so the determination will never go away. That's, I think, the way to do it. And simplicity. That's super important because when you start and initiate something, it needs to be super clear, super understandable for everybody that takes part of it. If you're not simple, and simple can be, how do you say it in English, interpreted into also bad segments, but no, I'm speaking about simple when it comes to help other people understand what you want and what you're doing perfectly. You know what I mean? Not perfectly, it's not the word
Yeah,
for me, but
absolutely.
amazingly.
Very, very clearly articulate what it is you want to achieve and simplify it so that, you know, I know you weren't going simple this way, but I'll go there. That any idiot trying to understand what it is you're doing can break it down.
I never use those words. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, mate,
Be crystal clear.
we're not censored here.
Clear. In order to be crystal clear, you need to have simple idea. The idea does not have to be simple, but the way you move it forward will need to be a simple way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, make it idiot proof.
Take a complex something and break it into simple ideas and move it on. That's how it's supposed to become. So it's
Yeah.
win-win, excellency, productivity, determination, and simplicity. I think
Love it.
that's
Well, I mean, you're sharing your core values right now, but that's also something that was a real red hot thing in the 90s, that everyone would build their core values and there were a whole lot of buzzwords, and that's how it was. I feel like now, especially on the back of Traction EOS, which is a book that was written a while ago, but I feel like it's doing the rounds now, at least in the circles. Traction. Yeah. The
I'm reading
entrepreneurial
it as we speak, by the way. I started reading it 2 weeks ago, I think.
So what do you think?
I actually listened to it on Audible. Yeah.
What do you think so far?
I like it. I think it can be very helpful for business when they just start. It's well written. But on that note, I think that it's important to read before Good to Great. That's, I think, a better book to read before you read Traction. It will help you with Traction also, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So just being mindful of the time here, and I wish we could keep talking for a whole lot longer. I do have a few more questions for you before I let you go. Before I do, I'll say that the point I was making around core values is it's really taken a new, it's kind of been rebooted. We have our core values. A lot of businesses that are creating their core values and really thinking through what it means to be someone in this team, in this family, in this company, has really reinvigorated. So not just putting, you put the word excellence, but you really articulate what that means. So not just throwing buzzwords in there, but really defining what's the outcome. What are we actually trying to achieve here? What do we stand for as a business? Will, in my opinion, help push businesses forward into the future and enable scale, because everyone understands where they fit in the ecosystem and what they're looking to drive towards. So I think that that's great advice too. Anyone listening in, if you had one word of advice or one piece of advice, one word might be a little bit tough. What would that look like to anyone who's going on this journey, whether they're just starting out, they're already a successful business? What's one thing that you would say has helped you along your career?
Hustle until you get what you want.
I like it.
That's the only way to do things today, as I see it. Not only today, probably the entire lifetime of the humankind. People who hustle, people who never give up, at the end of the day, reach to where they want to be. The only difference between people is the time they gave up. There are people who give up too fast. There are people who don't give up and they reach to where we got. But everybody needs to hustle, no matter what he's doing. If you want to get far, you need to, as I said at the beginning of our call, stuff his head into the shit. And sometimes it takes years. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look,
I'm still stuffing my head into the shit every day. That's the way I know. That's how I know that it works, and I love it though. It became my life. I love to put everything I have into what I do. So and my wife knows it, and she's okay with it. My family knows it. They know it. I like to actually, sacrifice, double quotes, my life into the work I do, because at the end of the day, I believe that we are here to do something. We're not just being born and die and pass away without having anything. And the way I see it, work hard and achieve what you want to achieve and leave a mark in this world. That's so hustle all the way until you get what you want.
Yeah, that's sound advice. And you're sitting here as I am, putting in the work every day, and I think that speaks volumes to, you're not going to get it right every time, and it's going to take time to get there, but ultimately, if you're motivated, driven,
it has to be in your mindset, because if you don't have it in the beginning, you're going to give up very fast. You need, from day one, tell yourself, I'm going to eat a lot of shit in the next 2-3 years. I know it, and it's okay, but I'm going to keep pushing. And tell it to yourself every day, and then you'll never get desperate, because you know it from the get-go. You did like alignment with yourself that it's going to happen, so nothing surprises you anymore. Every obstacle and every challenge coming into your face, you knew it's going to come, because you tell to yourself, I know, and I'm going to face it, I'm going to fight it.
Love it. I think that is just great advice and just so spot on. So finishing off, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what would be the best way for them to reach out or find out how?
I think that email is the best way. Every day I put myself at least an hour, full hour, to go over emails and, plan my day according to those emails. Yeah.
And if someone wanted to actually reach you, like what would be accessiBe.com, or how would they get in touch?
Yeah, it's accessiBe.com.
Sababa. All right, mate. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Again, thank you so much for jumping on and taking the time. A lot of hard hitting, great value adds and everything that you've shared today. So really appreciate it. And yeah, just want to say thanks.
Thank you very much, Yoni. Thank you.
Awesome. See you soon, mate.
Bye-bye.